Since her modeling days in New York, Gabrielle had developed a taste for rich food and rich men. Carlos, who worked in mergers and acquisitions, proposed on their third date. Gabrielle was touched when tears welled up in his eyes. But she soon discovered this happened every time Carlos closed a big deal. Gabrielle liked her paella piping hot. However, her relationship with her husband was considerably cooler.
If you talk to Al Mason at this thing, I want you to casually mention how much I paid for your necklace.
Why don't I just pin the receipt to my chest?
He let me know how much you paid for his wife's new convertible. Look, just work it into the
There's
conversation.
No way I can just work that in, Carlos.
Why not? At the Donahue party, everyone was talking mutual funds, and you found a way to mention you slept with half the Yankee outfield.
I'm telling you, it came up in the context of the conversation.
Hey, people are starting to stare. Can you keep your voice down, please?
Absolutely. I wouldn't want them to think we're not happy.
The most gratifying thing to witness is true character development and watching someone heal beyond their wounds. Welcome to Remy TV's Feminine Energy series, where we teach women how to become their best self and we use other women as examples to learn from. On today's episode, we will be using Gaby Solis from Desperate Housewives as our example. And if you've never watched the show, don't worry. I will explain everything along the way so you can find value in this video too.
But before we get started, I'm Charles.
And I'm Mel.
And we're here to bring you all forms of unfiltered entertainment
And make self-development fun. So make sure you like and subscribe and know we are sisters, not twins.
Gabrielle Solis was the epitome of beauty, seduction, and luxury. A woman who seemingly had it all. But underneath the designer dresses and sharp wit was her deeply wounded feminine energy.
We're gonna go over 5 key things that stood out in her behavior and her character that showed her wounded femininity, but we're also gonna unpack how Gabrielle was able to overcome everything and become a healed version of herself in the end. Everybody knows that Gabrielle Solis was the beauty queen, the hyper feminine woman of the group. But what people didn't realize is that her obsession with her beauty and looks was one of her main downfalls. This character, Gabrielle, used her beauty and sexuality as a form of control. Gabrielle constantly leveraged her looks and sex appeal to gain power, whether in her marriage, whether it was an affair or social standing.
For example, she married Carlos not for love, but actually financial security. So she believed that money would bring her happiness, but instead it left her feeling empty.
This is a wounded feminine trait when you are someone that relies on external validation and materialistic things in order to feel good about yourself. That's wounded femininity. So when you are a girl that only goes after a man because of his money, you're wounded. That is not something that we ever want to preach on this page. We believe every woman should be with a man who is financially secure, and I want every one of my girlies to be with a big baller shot collar. But I don't believe in being with a man for his money.
No.
Because that is wrong. You are using him.
And money isn't everything.
And that's not going to satisfy you
That's
and
not
make
gonna
you
hold
whole.
you at night.
Exactly. So with Gabrielle, she needed materialistic things and wealth to make herself feel whole, and it was a big part of her character. She felt validated by the diamonds, by the clothes.
Another example of her wounds is she rejects emotional intimacy and will settle for transactional love.
That's a big one, y'all. So you'll notice throughout the show that Gabrielle's relationships were always based on power plays and they were never based on emotional intimacy. And what's funny is that reminds me a lot of Samantha Jones. It was very much the same. All of their connections are only based on how you feel in power and in control, because emotional intimacy feels unsafe. An example of this was on the show, Gabrielle constantly battled Carlos for dominance, whether it was through cheating,
right on time,
financial sabotage, or emotional manipulation.
So when Carlos is in prison, Gabrielle goes on excessive shopping sprees, spending his money recklessly while he's unable to stop her. Instead of saving or managing their wealth wisely, she treats his absence as an opportunity to assert her independence through financial destruction.
So this showed her wounded femininity because instead of dealing with her emotions and the resentment that she feels, she punishes him. She lashes out in the way that she knows how, which is exerting control through materialism. So instead of dealing with things and unpacking what's wrong, she always goes for the punishing angle. And if you are someone who finds yourself constantly resorting to, okay, he made me feel a certain way, I have to punish him, I have to punish him, I have to punish him, rather than you opening up and being vulnerable and actually expressing your emotions, that's a wounded feminine trait.
So the same aspect of a certain wound can be shown in different ways. And in Gabrielle's case, that is control. So another way she showed this is by sabotaging Carlos's career.
Now her husband goes blind. She is now left to lead the marriage. She is the one that has to lead him and help him. And at first, she is livid. She doesn't want to do any of that. Why? Because it is a feminine trait to be nurturing and soft. And because Gaby has such a tough exterior and she was so protective of herself, that is not natural. So you're telling her she has to take care of a man that she doesn't even know she actually likes for real? Because she married him because he provides, not because she likes him. Now she has to lead? That was her first reaction. But then when she does lead him and feels like she's in control, like she's got the dick, she's like, wait, I like this.
She's like, I'm a macho man now. Which in turn led her to feeling like, you know what? I actually like this aspect and I want to stay in control. So now I don't want Carlos to get better because it makes me feel like I'll have to go back, behind him instead of being in control of him and everything.
So while her husband was blind and he was trying to rebuild his wealth and he started a new business plan, once she could see that he was able to be successful in that, she actively tried to destroy his confidence and tell him his plan isn't that good, it's not working out that well, simply to stop him from becoming better so she can remain the one with the big dick in the relationship.
Like, that is really disturbing. Think about it from your perspective of a husband. Imagine your husband was doing this on the low. Like, trying to find ways to exert control over you by bringing you down when you have goals and aspirations, just to feed the wound that they never tried to heal.
And I feel like if you're honest with yourself, there's a lot of women that have done something like this, maybe not in the extreme level like that, but you have done things in order to put yourself in a better position of control, even to the detriment of your partner, because of your own wounds. And it's not fair, because when you do things like this, you could end up losing someone you do care about.
So Gabrielle associates love with control. She gets threatened as Carlos regains power. A healed feminine woman would feel secure in her partner's success. But Gabrielle fears that if Carlos doesn't need her financially, he will leave her emotionally, revealing her deep wounds around abandonment and self-worth.
Now, we know that the theme of Gabrielle's wounds is control, and that further attributes to her third trait. She distrusts men, so she always feels the need to control them. And this stems from her abandonment wound. So when she was younger, her stepfather sexually assaulted her, and her mother was emotionally unavailable. So those two things told her, one, she doesn't trust the men in her life, and she doesn't feel safe around them, and that clearly, she is of property to them. And two, she doesn't feel safe around people and she feels like she is alone.
There was a lot of stuff that Gaby went through when she was younger. A lot of stuff that you don't know about. And I think that if you went to her and asked her about it, then the two of you could finally get past it.
What stuff are you talking about, Carlos?
Your second husband, Alejandro. When Gaby was 15, he assaulted her sexually.
Is that what she told you? But it was Gabriela who seduced him.
Excuse me?
She was always jealous of me. You don't know how many times I caught her wearing my shoes, trying on my jewelry, and I'd scream at her to leave my things alone, but no. She wanted whatever I had. Then one night, she set her sights on Alejandro. Believe me, no one got raped.
Lucia, she was only 15 years old.
A lot of men have left me over the years, and I never knew the reason. But when Alejandro left, I knew exactly why it happened. Gabriela made him fall in love with her. Oh, it took me so many years to forgive her.
That's where the survival modes comes in.
So another aspect that really demonstrated her wounds is that she associated femininity with superficiality instead of deep magnetism. She really cared about the glamour, the seduction, all of that, rather than realizing that the true way to be main character is actually having that inner, voice of yourself, believing that. It's not only about what you put on, it's your inner voice and how you feel about yourself that radiates out.
And also her superficiality went pretty far. She didn't believe in motherhood, and not to say that you are not a real woman if you don't want to be a mom, because that's definitely not the point. But Gaby's reason for not wanting to be a mom was because she felt like motherhood was beneath her.
Carlos, we're never gonna have kids. Shoes are my kids. Let me be the mother I was meant to be.
But deep down, she longed for unconditional love.
Congratulations, you're pregnant. Mrs. Solis.
I don't care. You told me this couldn't happen. You said it was impossible.
The human reproductive system is complicated and often unpredictable. Sometimes miracles happen.
This isn't a miracle. This is a disaster. My husband's blind. Neither one of us have jobs. My husband's blind.
Trust me, children are a blessing. You'll see, it'll all work out.
Well, I hope to God you're right. What does this number mean anyway?
That's your beta number, and it's high, which indicates the possibility of twins.
She wanted that more than anything, but she wanted us to believe that she was a surface level person who couldn't give to anyone else. She just wants to be me, 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 me.
Yeah, because like we mentioned before, her lack of trust to love.
This is a wounded trait. If you care so much about your looks to the point that it feels like it's crippling, like Gaby did not have an identity outside of her looks.
Gaby, come on. For God's sakes, will you take those off? It's 8 o'clock at night.
As long as you don't mind people thinking you're out on the town with your anemic lesbian sister.
There's our man of honor.
Gaby, this is Stephanie. She put this whole banquet together.
Hi, nice to meet you. You're probably wondering why I look like this. Excuse me? I'm not ill. I'm just not wearing any makeup so I can teach my daughter that beauty's what's on the inside. I don't actually look this hideous.
Okay.
Confusing feminine power with surface level attractiveness is wounded femininity, because our attractiveness comes from within before it comes on the outside. Self-care is feminine, doing your hair, all that is feminine. But
If you're not doing the emotional work inside,
it's
the
nothing.
beauty's only so far. It can only get you through certain doors, but there's a point where the door closes.
With everything that we've listed here, this could have held Gaby back and had her in a very stagnant state for the rest of her life. She could have been the girl that's just chasing dollars and finding wealthy men who treat her like crap, that she can max out their credit cards and have emotionless interactions with and just have a lot of sex. And that would not be fruitful. Instead, Gaby had to face those wounds and really come to terms with the fact that she has never done the work. So Gabrielle's biggest transformation happened after she lost her beauty, she lost her wealth, and she lost her power, forcing her to have to find self-worth another way.
Another example of this is through motherhood. Because she struggled with love and attachment, she really didn't feel comfortable with the role. But as time went on, she realized, wow, like, this is the unconditional love that I never thought I could have. And I actually realized, like, this role is actually what I need in my life.
And another great thing is like her final arc on the show. Because of that, it was able to make her develop more of that soft, divine feminine energy that was always there. Because she was able to now open up to Carlos and create an emotional connection, when before all they ever had was a transactional romance.
Did I ever tell you when I knew I was going to marry you?
First time you saw me on the runway?
No, that's when I knew I was going to sleep with you. No, I knew I was going to marry you the night we went to that restaurant on 3rd Street.
Remember that place?
Mm-hmm. You wore a white linen sundress. And you ordered this giant plate of ribs. And you ate them with such gusto, up to your elbows in barbecue sauce. meat hanging from your teeth and grease in your hair. And when it was all over, I pointed out what a mess you were. You pulled out your mirror, took a look at yourself, and just let out this huge, happy, totally unrestrained laugh. The room completely filled with it. And I thought to myself, now that is a sound I'd like to hear the rest of my life. That's why I proposed to you. And it had nothing to do with your looks.
You know when I decided I wanted to be with you forever?
No, when?
About 2 seconds ago.
Now they were able to deepen their connection, be more vulnerable, and because Gaby found her passion in the end of the show, because as a woman, living in your true passion is when you will feel the most
divine, the most divine woman. Like, both parts of you, your dark and your light energy, everything feels complete.
And Gaby was able to achieve this. As you know, throughout the show, Gaby seemed to have been always trying to find, like, what is the thing that makes her happy? She did pageants. She did little shows. Remember when she did pageants, she did things where she would do makeup for people. And in the end, she became like a professional shopper, having her own business now. And she's still able to have the provider man, the love she wanted, and the kids. She was able to have it all.
This was after Carlos helped her develop a personal shopping website, which led to Gabrielle getting her own show on the Home Shopping Network. They soon bought a mansion in California, where they argued happily ever after.
Because she worked through it instead of sitting on it like another character, Lorelai. She really shows how Lorelai in our next video does not grow. She is one of the few characters on TV that's like, I'm not going to just sit and be this person. I'm going to overcome this and be better.
And that is what I love about Gaby Solis. As a writer myself, I look for lead characters that have that amazing, beautiful arc, because that is how people that watch these shows learn. And I hate to see a character that stays the same, like Lorelai Gilmore, because then people think it's cute to not change ever and just do dumb shit. But in a world full of Lorelai Gilmores, we ask that you be a Gaby Solis. Because yes, things can be hard. We can come from tough beginnings, but in the end, you can still have it all.
Always.
And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like,
comment,
share,
and subscribe
to the Remy Diaries, aka Remy TV, your favorite YouTube streaming network, where you'll never want to change the channel.